Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're buying or selling property, you're in for an exciting journey. But beware, because it's also a path where scams lurk around every corner. Today, we're going to arm you with the top tips to avoid real estate scams. So let's get started. First up, all you future homeowners out there, here are 4 ways to play it safe. Number one, verify everything. Always confirm the identity of the sellers and the agents. A quick Google search can do wonders. Thank God for Google. Number two, too good to be true. If a deal seems too good to be true, yeah, it probably is. Don't fall for it if you think it's too good to be true. Check into it. Always question unrealistically low prices. Number three, escrow scams. Watch out for fake escrow services. Always use known and trusted companies. So you may ask, what is an escrow service? Well, an escrow service acts as a neutral third party in various types of transactions, most commonly in real estate, but also in online sales and other deals where buyer and seller need assurances, right, before completing a transaction or a third party. So the primary function of an escrow or escrow department is title company is to hold the assets on behalf of the parties until specific conditions are met, right? So here's how escrow typically works in real estate. Well, in the real estate context. So the agreement and terms. So when a buyer and a seller agree on a home purchase, these terms are outlined in the said purchase agreement. Correct, right? Well, this agreement includes not only the sale price, but also conditions that must be met for the transaction to proceed, right? So an escrow account is then opened by the buyer, seller, or real estate agent with the escrow company. So what I'm saying, which could be part of a title company, a bank, or a law firm, because we have worked with law firms before that offer these services. So the purpose is to hold something of value, right? Usually the buyer's earnest money deposit, their good faith money, along with the purchase agreement terms. So basically, it's holding the money, and they're the holding company until the deal is ready to close. So the most of the transactions I've used, guys, have been title companies. I want to shout out to First Premier Title in Shelby Township, all you gals and guys that work there. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much. So back to the explanation. So escrow service ensures that no funds or property changes hands until all the conditions in the agreement are met, right? They're in charge of all the closing documents. But both parties work to meet the conditions of the agreement during the escrow period, right? And in some states, it's called the escrow period. Here, it's just like, we're in the underwriting phase. So this may include the home inspections, the mortgage approvals, repairs, and other necessary steps. So the escrow service monitors process or the progress and maintains the documents and the funds, right? So once all the conditions are met, mortgage is approved, inspections are satisfactory, repairs are completed, the transaction moves to closing. So the escrow service title company facilitates the transfer of the purchase price to the seller and the property title to the buyer, right? So they ensure that all the necessary paperwork is signed and recorded. We're talking deed, mortgage, all that good stuff. So after the transaction is finalized, they release the funds after everything is signed. They're like, okay, we're going to process package here. You're getting your funds. Other companies, the homeowners, if there is a warranty, they're getting their funds and documents and such. House keys are exchanged. But using an escrow service in real estate transaction, it adds a layer of security for both parties because it's like a neutral party. So it protects the buyer by ensuring that the property title and other necessary documents are secure and that the funds will only be released when all the conditions are met, right? And they have clear title. So for the seller, it ensures that the buyer's payment is forthcoming upon fulfillment of these agreements, right? So I want to say the title company, for here, they handle the meticulous paperwork, right? And associated with these real estate transactions, because there are lots of documents. So it reduces the administrative burden on both the buyer and seller, okay? So back to number 4, let's go back. The fourth way to protect yourself is a title check. So make sure you do a thorough title check to avoid buying a property with liens or disputes, which is why we use title companies because they do the title search. Selling your home? You're not buying, but you're selling. Well, you are not immune to scams either. Unfortunately, none of us are immune to scams. But here are the 4 things you should do, right? Number one, you want to verify the buyer's credentials. So always ensure the buyer is legitimate. Yes, request proof of funds before proceeding. So the first step is to ask the buyer for the proof of funds. So we call it POF. So proof of funds is a document or set of documents that demonstrate the buyer has enough money to complete the transaction. So this can be in the form of bank statements. So recent bank statements showing the balance of their accounts. And believe me, buyers can cross out their account numbers. You don't have to have that on there. Important information they can cross out. Excuse me, letter from a bank or financial institution. So a letter on unofficial letterhead stating the buyer has significant or sufficient funds available. So the letter should be dated and signed by an authorized officer of the bank. So these are especially helpful and needed in cash transactions. So a pre-approval letter from the lender is a valuable document offering several significant benefits to both buyers and sellers, which is what you actually want if you have someone buying with a mortgage. So this letter generally indicates that the lender has reviewed the buyer's financial background, including their credit score, their income and debt, and they've determined how much they are willing to lend that said buyer, what the interest rate they're eligible for, and under what terms, which that is a very important document to have. So number two, a tip to avoid scams would be phishing awareness. Not talking about this kind of phishing, right? Be cautious of emails asking for personal information. Scammers can be very convincing. Yes, what you may ask is a phishing email. Well, that is a PHISHING. Phishing emails are a form of cyber fraud designed to trick recipients into giving away sensitive information such as passwords, credit card numbers, security numbers, and other personal details. And they are common. They are very common. It's a common tactic used by cyber criminals because they can be effective and are relatively easy to execute and are awful. But here's how phishing emails typically work. So they often mimic the look and feel of communications from legitimate institutions. They make them look very legit. So they can look like banks, government agencies, or popular websites. So this can include using, yes, they do this, their organization's branding and their logo and the layout that looks very similar to the authentic emails. Okay. They're going to use compelling language in these phishing emails designed to create a sense of urgency or fear because most people act on the fear of missing out, FOMO. For example, the email might claim that your account has been compromised, that you need to verify your account details immediately, or that you are eligible to receive a government refund or a prize. Relatively, I've never seen that happen, government refunding or a prize just out of the blue. But these emails usually contain a link that you are urged to click on, but don't, or they might include an attachment that you're asked to download. So the link typically directs you to a fake website that looks strikingly similar to the real one, where you're asked to enter your personal details. Alternatively, clicking on the link or downloading the attachment can install malware on your computer and really mess you up, guys. So once the phishing attempt is successful, the criminals can use your sensitive information for various illegal activities. They could steal your identity, right? That's not good. They can make unauthorized purchases with your credit card information, gain access to your bank accounts or other financial resources, and empty your account out. So, and sometimes it spreads to your contacts, right? So, they also aim to replicate themselves by accessing your email contacts and then forwarding them the malicious email to your family, friends, colleagues, whoever's in your contact list. So, how do we prevent this? Because this is terrible stuff that goes on. And really, people do these things. I don't want to believe they do, but they do. So here are some tips. You want to verify the sender. Check the sender's email address carefully. So phishing emails often have addresses that look similar to the legitimate ones, but may include a small typo or a different domain. It's supposed to like .com instead of .gov, or it'll have like a tiny number in or a dot. Look for like a generic greeting on the intro line, right? it'll say like dear customer instead of your name. It won't say your name. Do not, under any circumstances, click on any unfamiliar links. Please don't do this. So avoid clicking on links or downloading attachments. It's just bad luck. It's like no good. You do not want to do that from, these people, because you don't know what's going to happen to your computer. So you also want to check for legitimacy. So if an email asks for sensitive information, verify it by contacting the organization directly. Pick up your cell phone, guys. Contact them directly, because you obviously have their known phone number and website. You know what they are. And then use security software. Keep your antivirus software and firewalls up to date. Using Norton, I use Norton, and it helps you detect and block the phishing attempts. It's just a little bit of an extra protection. And educate yourself. So awareness, well, educating yourself because you're listening to me discuss it right now. So it's your best defense. And there are actually companies out there that will offer training and give you more information on identifying these phishing attempts. But I just wanted to highlight on it. So understanding that this can happen and staying cautious when handling these email communications, especially in a real estate transaction, if you're in the middle of it, especially as a buyer or a seller, right? You could be a victim of it. So let me know if you've been a victim of a phishing scam by commenting below if you would like to share your experience, because I'm always interested to hear about other people's experiences. So number 3, let's go back to the 4 ways to protect yourself from scams if you're a seller. Fake overpayment. So beware of buyers who send checks over the purchase price and ask for a refund. This is a classic scam move, especially in rentals, right? So the scammer deliberately overpays for a product or service, and then they request the excess money be returned. So this can occur in various contexts, including online sales, rental agreements, or any scenario where money is exchanged. And this has happened in the past where people have rentals out there and they are scamming people. But here's how it typically works. So step-by-step breakdown of a fake overpayment scam. The scammer poses as a buyer or renter and reaches out to the seller or the landlord with an offer to purchase an item or rent the property, right? So there's an agreement on the price. They agree. And the seller provides details for receiving payment, right? We've agreed on this. Now you're going to pay me. The scammer sends a check or money order for an amount significantly higher than the agreed price. So alternatively, they might make a direct deposit or electronic transfer for more than the agreed upon amount. So after making the overpayment, guys, the scammer contacts the seller with the plausible excuse for the mistake. Oh, I overpaid. Sometimes they'll say it was a clerical error. Oh, I put, another zero in there. Confusion about the currency or conversion rates, or mistakenly including shipping or handling that were supposed to be separate. This is all like in online sales, not shipping and handling, obviously, for real estate, but the scammer requests the excess amount be returned, often urging the seller to act quickly. So they may stress urgency due to a financial emergency, appealing to the seller's empathy and desire to help. If the seller agrees, they might send the excess amount back to the scammer using a wire transfer, Cash App, or other method that provides quick or irreversible access to funds. Once you send it back, it's gone. So after the seller sends a refund, the original payment, the check or the money order, or the electronic transfer, it's discovered to be fraudulent and like by your bank, right? And unfortunately, this often occurs after you've already returned the excess funds to the scammer. Not good. Do not ever do that. So the seller is left responsible for the entire amount of the fake check plus any bank fees for returned checks. The scammer, meanwhile, disappears with the money that the seller returned. There are bad people out there, guys. How do you protect yourself from these scammers? Well, before you issue any refund, which I wouldn't even deal with this, but ensure your payment has fully cleared and confirmed by your bank. So you're like, well, I will wait, but I'm going to make sure that it's going to be cleared. So be aware that just because funds appear to be available in your account doesn't mean the check or transfer is legitimate. It usually says pending on there. So treat any overpayment as a potential scam, guys, especially if the buyer insists on quick repayment of the excess. So you want to encourage the use of secure, traceable payment methods and avoid those that are reversible or untraceable. So if a check is involved, you can contact the bank listed on the check to verify the check is valid. Speak with your bank about any large or unusual transactions, especially those involving refunds, right? So remember, like I said before, if something feels off about the transaction, it is better to err on the side of caution. So scammers often exploit the urgency and the complexity of financial transactions. So taking the time to verify everything can save you significant trouble and loss. Now, let's all wrap this up. The fourth way to protect yourself from scams when selling your home, the fourth and final way, secure your personal information, peeps. Keep your personal information secure and only share it when necessary. Okay, and I think you know what that personal information is. So if you found this information helpful, take a minute and hit the like button and subscribe, get notified for future videos. Like I said, I hope you found this helpful, and be aware, people, don't get scammed.